In terms of AIOs, Deepcool has been doing some outstanding work lately, and even though this AIO right here did get released a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even more, I still wanted to check it out and to see how it actually performs and to give you some insights, because last time we did the Mystique 360, which has an LCD, this one has a digital screen, so it's a bit different, but yet kind of, if you're not looking for that stuff specifically for the LCD and you want performance, I can say right up front, you'll be quite interested in this one. This is Deepcool's LD360. So it comes with three 120mm fans. It has a quite interesting way of connecting them as well, and well, basically straightforward connection when we're talking about pump block top, but we'll get to that part quite shortly. Now, when we're talking about the LD360, it has three parameters that is showing on the digital screen, and you have wattages, so the power consumption, you have the thermals for the CPU, and you have the load for the CPU. I think this is quite okay, and in those terms I wouldn't even change it in terms of adding like GPU or anything else, because after all, this is cooling the CPU, and after all, it is quite cool to add the wattages as well to give you more information about the processor and how much does it use and all the other stuff. So apart from that, the fans come pre-installed, and actually the package is the same as Mystique 360, so there's nothing too much to do here. The locking mechanism is also quite straightforward and simple, so in those terms, everything is done from Deepcool side, and you only have to do is place it inside your case that you desire to use it for, right? Now, let's go quickly through some specs, and then we're going to check out some details, well, basically tutorial on how to connect it. So it supports up to LG 1700, except, as I already said, for the Mystique one, except for the 20XX. Then we have AMD AM5 and AM4. Radiator dimensions are 402, 120, 27, and pairing it up with the fans, it goes up to 52 millimeters of thickness. Now, the radiator material is aluminum, and the tube length is also the same, 410 millimeters. Pump dimensions 89 times 78 times 53, and the pump speed is 3400 RPMs plus minus 10%, with the noise level going up to 21 decibels. The pump connector is 3-pin DC. We have fan dimensions 120 times 120 times 25, and their speed is 600 to 2400 RPMs, again plus minus 10%. Airflow 72.04 CFM, air pressure 3.48 millimeters H2O, and then we have fan noise level going maximum at 38.71, which you can of course regulate and get lower decibel noise, because the performance on this one is quite outstanding, and you can definitely benefit if you lower the fan speed, thus lowering down the decibel range. And the connector is 4-pin PWM, plus it has a addressable RGB fan, so two headers going out of the fans, but I'll get to that part later on. It has hydro bearing, and that's basically it. It works with Asus Aura Sync, Razer Chroma RGB, Gigabyte RGB Fusion 2.0, MSI Mystic Lights, and ASRock Polychron Sync. Now, when we're talking about Deepcool, you already know they have anti-leak tech inside, and it kind of does the work of regulating the pressure inside the closed loop, giving you, let's say, some sort of a ease of not worrying about if it will leak, because if the pressure inside the closed loop goes above the atmospheric pressure, then it will release it, and you won't have any leaks. So that's really good. Now, what I wanted to show you is how to connect it. Now, when I unboxed it, I was looking at the fans, and they had some specific connectors, which was quite strange. You know, you don't have three additional cables in the accessory box. You have one, and it daisy chains to all of those. So I think that's 8-pin, but basically it's 7-pin connector that you just daisy chainably connect to each fan, and that cable runs out of the last fan, depending on the orientation how you place it, goes into 5 volts, 3-pin addressable RGB header, and 4-pin PWM. That's it. Quite cool, right? Then we go to the pump. When we talk about connections, you don't have SATA this time, but you have USB 2.0 that you need to connect at the bottom part of your motherboard, so internal USB 2.0. Then we have 3-pin DC connector that you connect to your pump header on your motherboard for speed and everything else. And finally, what we have is addressable RGB. Now, on this AIO, the addressable RGB goes around the digital clock. Let's put it this way, around the digital numbering and indication and everything else. So in those terms, it's really straightforward to connect it. The only thing that I might take it as a sort of negative is that the tubes go beneath the pump. So it automatically has the cables running from the bottom, and then you have to somehow reroute them. So if you're going with a white motherboard, that won't look nice. But if you're going with a black motherboard that you know how to adjust the cables and everything else, then you don't have to worry about literally anything because it will look quite nice. Apart from that, the only thing is the locking mechanism and the mounting mechanism, which you do need to take into consideration, but let's check that out as well right now, which I will give you some insights on how to do it and what to do and what to check out basically. So the mounting mechanism, it's really straightforward. If you go with AMD, you just have to use those 4 locking nuts, 4 locking screws that replace the retention brackets, the original plastic retention brackets coming with the motherboard. The same locking mechanism that you have on Mystique 360. So removing the original retention brackets, placing these 4 screws instead of them, and then you have 2 metal retention brackets that go directly to the pump. Now, what I wanted to mention is when we're talking about taking a bit more consideration when you place them on the pump, because you have 4 screws, you have two of those brackets. When you're placing them, you can actually place them on any side you desire. It really doesn't matter because you can go sideways, you can go top, bottom. It's really totally irrelevant. For what it is relevant is the orientation of the digital screen. So the digital screen can't be rotated and it has to be this way. So the tubes have to go to the bottom part, and for the AMD, those retention brackets need to be placed on top and bottom to have a perfect orientation. Let's put it this way, right? So when you do that, I do have to admit you have to be careful not to touch already pre-applied thermal paste, just in case, be careful when doing that so you don't ruin, because it is really good and it is really doing a proper job what they applied already on their AIOs. So in those terms, that's it. You just place the AIO after mounting those retention brackets. You use 4 locking nuts and that's it. Of course, tie them up diagonally so you get proper and equal pressure on the, pressure on the CPU. That's all there is to it. After that, you have to connect those cables, all that I mentioned, and you're good to go. The only thing now when we're talking about Windows and their app, which basically isn't an app, it's just a, I don't know how to call it. It's not bloatware, that's for sure, because I've seen and I heard loads of comments that people are praising that for being so simplistic, quite easy for the digital screen to adjust everything. So for the LD360, there's not much stuff to do, and I'm not even going to show you because it's quite simple. You can choose the product depending, because I have here CH560 Digital, which also goes into that same product. So if you want to adjust something, even though you can't adjust much, you just have to choose the product that you want to. So for LD360, the only thing that you can do is basically choose Fahrenheit or Celsius, and you can choose if you want it to start up as the Windows boots, and that's it. No complications whatsoever. I'm quite loving the simplicity behind everything, and yeah, that's really cool. Now, we need to check out benchmarks because it's really cool, and what I thought it would be, it ended up a total opposite, which at some point I'm not shocked and I am shocked. So yeah, let's check those out. So when we compare Mystique and LD360, LD360 in AIDA 64 got 83 degrees while the Mystique got 81, and it got a lower clock speed at 4825, while the GPU, I don't know if does that make any sense, 66 degrees. That could be some marginal error or whatever. So in Cinebench, it got lower clock speeds, and a bit lower thermals. So it starts at 82. First two runs were at 82 degrees Celsius, and then the next 8 were at 81, which comes to the point where the first clock speed was 4950 and every other was 5000. Now, when we go into scores, 26,541, it starts there, and then on the second one, it kind of drops down to 26,377. So I thought, okay, it will regulate now. This is it. The next 8 benchmarks will be in some that category. But no, actually it didn't. It jumped back. It jumped even higher. 26,600, 661, 515, 603, and so on and so on. So what I can conclude here is that some sort of an average is 26,600. Let's put it 600, right? 620, maybe even that. But regardless of that, it's really outstanding how it performs nicely. I mean, I'm enjoying these Deepcool products so much because each time I review some of those, they really actually do perform quite nicely, and the mounting mechanism is really straightforward. The fans are pre-attached to the radiator, so you only have to do is place them on top. That's it. And everything else, connection part, quite easy. Okay, you'll have a bit more cables, but that's it. And that's all that I can say. I mean, big fascination about the LD360. The digital one, the digital screen, and all the other stuff. I mean, it's all up to you to decide if you like it or not. I won't go into that, but definitely a PC crazy performance badge for this one. Yeah, without a doubt. And quite cool, you actually can see the wattages, well, basically the usage in those terms for the CPU, because, yeah, quite nice. And the idle thermals, this was the lowest that I saw on AMD Ryzen 9 7900X3D, with this one going around 42, 43, because it usually idles at 48 to 50, which is a bit strange for a CPU, right? But it's stock and I haven't undervolted it, I haven't overclocked it, I haven't done literally anything. I like doing stuff on stock just because. That's it. It's kind of simplifies for you guys where you can get some more insights when you overclock or undervolt or whatever. It's all up to you. Basically, when you do such things. Yeah, that's it. The only thing that I can do right now is to place the link for the Deepcool LD360 and the CH560 and CH560 digital for you to decide what to do. I mean, on the case, you can place the GPU percentage, load, and thermals, and on the CPU, well, you're already there with the CPU thermals and loads and wattages. So yeah, there's that, guys. Thank you for watching today's video. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, click the notification bell, and all in all, hopefully I will see you, well, in the next one. Thanks. Bye bye.